Hi, everyone. Welcome back to this week's episode of the PETHS Alumni Network podcast. I'm your host, Nathan, and today we are joined by none other than Mr. Jason Lee. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for being on here. Without any further ado, we'll start with an introduction. You graduated from Trudeau in 2020. You're studying at the University of Toronto in the architecture program, and you're currently taking a year off to do an internship in Copenhagen, actually with a Danish architecture firm, BIG. I got that all right this time?
Yes,
Okay,
perfect.
good to hear. So looking back, you mentioned you were in the yearbook committee, you're on TSAC, a few other things. What were some of the standout moments for you looking back at your high school years?
I think for me, the main key thing was actually the friend groups and the people that I actually met through high school. I think those experiences kind of really enriched and really brought the experience to life, especially during COVID. In my 12th year, or my fourth year, um, it was really difficult to essentially keep motivation and keep doing things. But then with these people around and the groups that I was in and during that time, really helped kind of set some hobbies and a few places to go during weekends and weekdays during COVID. So yeah, I think those are the key moments that I've really
Mhm.
experienced then.
Just the small moments, right? Not like
Yeah, this is
the
really
big
small
moves.
moments. Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, you didn't have prom or grad that year, which is
No,
unfortunate. So
no.
yeah, it's more so the small moments that you take for granted. Once everyone's in lockdown, right? You can't do those like small things anymore.
Right,
Um,
exactly. Yeah.
yeah, what were some of like your favorite classes?
I think my favorite class actually was media arts with I think one year was Dr. Jiang, one year was Miss Montanero, and one year was Miss Huang. All I think I had a lot of fun really just experimenting with the software and computers and what you can do actually do with art as well. Like I think that in that area, that's sort of what my favorite courses are. Yeah.
hmm Yeah, so I can kind of see like how that might carry over, to architecture.
Mhm.
With what you're currently doing now, like obviously designing, buildings and using this software to do so. Like what was your earliest memory of when architecture kind of came into your mind as something that you might pursue in the future?
Yeah, actually, it's kind of a funny story, but I think is actually when I was applying to university when I actually found out what architects actually really do. Before any of this or before kind of university and whatnot, and before I started applying, I was very set on actually going into engineering, civil engineering mostly, and during the application kind of timeline. I only applied to all engineering firms except for U of T architecture. And once I went through physics, I was like, wait, this is not for me. So then I started researching into architecture a little bit more, and then I realized that actually with architecture, it's a combination of both engineering, design, and sort of this idea of art as well. Kind of incorporating all of these kind of things that I really like into sort of this one field, which I think really propelled me to kind of go into this field. And yeah, it's where I currently stand now. So I'm glad I chose it.
Yeah, we were kind of
Yeah,
talking offline a little bit about how an architect's dream is an engineer's nightmare, and a lot of times
yeah,
where an engineer has to really follow guidelines and follow the rules of physics, for example. Whereas in architecture they're obviously creating these like very beautiful, like they're using all their creativity to create these buildings. So that is one thing that we talked about before we jumped on the podcast, and we talked about you're currently working in Denmark on these projects. Can you tell us a little bit more specifically about what kind of projects you've been working on?
yeah, of course. So currently at my internship here at BIG BRK Ingles Group, um, I'm currently working on a lot of public projects in China, actually. So the biggest one that we're doing or that I'm doing currently is this art museum in the eastern side of China. I can't say specifics, so it's
Yeah,
NDA, but
yeah.
but it's I think it's like the 60,000 square meter space, and it's like it's huge. I mean, there's these 9 buildings, whatnot, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's one of my I think the biggest projects that I'm working on currently, and then I'm actually also working on another project here in Denmark. It's this mycelium 3D printed kind of pavilion, emergency shelter kind of thing, which I'm currently here looking at and studying. With the team here at Big. And yeah, that's sort of what I guess what I'm working on right now. And yeah.
So after the building, when you're planning the building,
Mhm.
What are some of the key like numbers and like performance metrics
Ah,
that tell you that you've had a successful project when it's all built?
yeah. Well, I mean, I guess in terms of like how we measure success in architecture, it's not really quantified. Really, it's more so sort of, I guess, public opinion. Really, sort of how the public really responds to these projects, and how client also responds to the projects, and how consultants and whatnot also respond to the project. Really, so especially with us and at Big doing all these public projects, it's mostly just seeing like how, like for example, the people in China, how they also respond to it, how the forums respond to it, for example. Um,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, so have you noticed like a big difference, in public opinion between, China versus Denmark? Like what are some differences that you find in public reception?
Yeah, I mean, like, I guess each country or each place in the world has a different culture, really. So everywhere has a different opinion in terms of that. So, for example, in China, they're more kind of like they're more in agreement to traditional architecture, really. But then in more of like the Canadian terms or the more American sort of lifestyle, it's more modernized, and people there love more glass curtains and
Mhm.
etc, like like those type of things more. So I guess, yeah, in that sense.
Yeah. And then on the flip side, what are some of the biggest like concerns that you have to keep in mind when you're designing a project?
mm, I That's a good question. But I think for each project, it also really depends on the I guess it depends on the project itself, really. So, for example, the with the like for the Chinese project that I'm doing right now, budget is a big thing and timeline is a big thing. So from when it starts to when it ends, it's a big thing in China. Um, but then in Denmark, it's more about feasibility and more about if things can actually be built within a timeline, and also if it could be actually built with the tools and technology that we have so far. And I guess it really depends in that sense, but yeah.
Yeah, so I think you mentioned offline that you do, a lot of research on these kind of things. Like,
Mhm.
how do you stay informed on, the technology that does exist and, the tools that you have available to you?
Yeah, I guess mostly it's really just looking at different forums, really. So, for example, Arc Daily, it's the biggest one for us in architecture. Every new building essentially gets published onto that forum right there. DZine is also a nice one, and DZine also exposes a lot of these new technologies. It's also all of these new different types of building materials that are really heavily exposed onto DZine as well. And obviously Instagram and social media as well. Like it's very well connected through their and you kind of learn a lot about AI generation on Instagram,
Mhm.
or I kind of learned a lot about AI generation on
Yeah.
Instagram. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, like I mean, you can really find architecture and sort of like what's going on sort of in the world,
Mhm.
basically anywhere, but
Yeah.
it's just, I guess it depends on what you're
Yeah.
looking for, really.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you mentioned AI, and that's a huge
Mhm.
topic in any field. Almost every
Right.
field is affected by AI. How has it affected architecture in your case? How have you seen it being
Yeah.
used?
So I think in Big, for example, we use AI mostly just for visualization and sort of idea generation, really concept generation. So we literally, like if we want to just see something real quick, we would do a really quick render using AI through our CAD programs to essentially see if it's feasible, if it works, if the concept works, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then we also sometimes use Midjourney, for example, to essentially kind of test out different concepts as well.
We talked about a little bit about cultural differences and cultural preferences, and using AI as different tools. Like, how important is it to be, conservative on one project versus like creative on another project? Do
Mhm.
you really get to be creative in a lot of these projects?
Yeah, I think we do. I mean, for me and my experience so far, I think we definitely do. I think it's also really beneficial because in Denmark, um, as an architect, you're there's basically two streams of architecture really in here in Denmark. You can either become a constructing architect, which is more conservative, more details, more sort of constructability and designing different aspects of a building to make it constructible. And then there's also this other aspect where it's more about the creative process of things, like going from geometrical different iterations to essentially the to essentially kind of designing how the interior feel of the spaces, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, kind of like that. Um, so I guess in that sense, in Denmark, it really lets you kind of look into that a little bit more, as opposed into Canada. I've heard
Mhm.
it's more in focus into both of these, a combination of both of these. Like there's only one stream of architecture really. So yeah, I guess in that sense, I do
Mhm.
feel the creative the creative allowance in the field here in Denmark.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, in terms of creativity, like who do you take, inspiration from?
Mhm.
We talked a little bit offline, you prefer a little bit of the older type buildings. Do you have a specific, inspiration that you really love to take after?
Yeah, good question. I draw inspiration from a lot of places, mostly within the firm here at Big. At Big, they do a lot of really. They've been here since 2001, and they've been winning a lot of awards since 2001.
Hmm.
Um, and I think most of my inspiration really comes from the firm's past life and sort of what they've done before and sort of their geometrical contributions in architecture in that sense. Um, I'm also looking a lot into I forgot his name actually. Right. Um, a lot of Nordic architecture as well. I feel like there's something with Nordic architecture that really calls to me somehow.
Hmm.
It's just more melancholical, if that makes sense. I don't know if that's a word, but like it's like melancholy,
Hmm.
like it's more sweet,
Hmm.
sweet
Yeah.
and sorrow. It's not
Hmm.
like in your face sort of thing.
Right.
So
Hmm.
I feel like in that sense, it really that really I really draw inspiration from that most of the times.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So, being an award winner, like you said, the firm is obviously very powerful, very well known. How did you actually end up, at this firm? What's the recruiting story for that?
Yeah. So I mean, to work in as an intern here at Big, it's you just have to apply through a portal, and obviously you have to have a good portfolio, a good set of work from your academic career already. Um, obviously, like different software experiences is also key here in the firm. I think it's just sort of the more I guess basic kind of knowledge of things.
Mhm.
But then it's also one thing that I've really kind of realized and I'm currently seeing in the firm is they also really look at your eye of design. If you can see something and if you can envision something and actually produce that into software and into visualization, I think that's also a very key feature that people here have as well.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And then, working in a foreign country, was there a culture shock for you? How can you kind of describe your experience working with, in an international firm?
Yeah, I mean, in Denmark, it's a lot more casual, really. Like everyone doesn't come into dress shirts and dress pants. Everyone comes in shorts and t-shirts.
Yeah.
I think that's like the biggest cultural shock for me so far.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, everyone. I mean, we don't get paid overtime, unfortunately,
Mhm.
but
Yeah.
it's also another culture shock. But it's honestly okay as well. The working hours are manageable, and especially
Mhm.
for architecture wise, it makes sense that there's long working hours as well.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, I think those are the biggest two cultural shocks that I've experienced so far while working in Denmark.
So now that you have, real life working experience, what are some of the differences that you noticed between like your education, and what you've learned in the classroom versus what you've learned in the real world?
Yeah, I guess I mean it's very different for architecture really. So in the real world
Mhm.
and school, nothing
Yeah.
applies. There's no connection kind
Yeah.
really. Like it's only a very little
Yeah.
like very hard skills like time management kind of those things like
Mhm.
those transfer over. But then in academia, especially in undergrad, they're more focused on sort of concept generation, like how can you actually bring an idea to a concept, to visualization, to software, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But then in the workforce, you're more sort of it's more tailored to if things can be constructed and how to actually talk to people and how to actually kind of bring something to construct actually. Putting things into CAD, putting things into Revit is a big thing here in the workforce. Um, yeah, I think and also managing timeline and budget also a
Mhm.
really big thing here in the workforce. Managing sort of everyone really, like the consultants, the team, the clients, all of that, politics as well in some cases.
Mhm.
Yeah, like as an architect, you have to be very proficient at doing all of that.
Mhm.
So I guess those are the main key differences in terms of academia and also compared to workforce, but yeah.
In terms of consulting and managing clients, do you ever get to present in a boardroom type setting?
I do, but obviously with supervision. They're
Mm-hmm.
not gonna
Yeah.
let an intern
Yeah.
do that, obviously.
Yeah.
But I think what's really special about Big is that they actually let you do that really, and they let you actually touch the projects, and they let you like make very difficult design decisions as an intern. I guess those sort of things are kind of what really makes this internship really nice for me, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
And especially talking to clients, I think in places in Canada, some of my friends, they don't even get to talk to
Yeah.
clients, or they don't even get to see any of them really in
Mm-hmm.
real life. And here, you have that opportunity to actually see people and to see different, like, all of these clients kind of talk, and how that client architect feedback really comes into play
Mm-hmm.
as well. I think those kind of key features really make this internship special as well. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
What are some of the biggest learning points that you've had during your time in Denmark?
Right, yeah. I think the biggest thing is just chill, really.
Yeah.
It's like as I mean, as I speak right now, it sounds like a lot in terms of architecture, like you have to do so much stuff, but really it's not as bad as it sounds. And if you just kind of take a breath and really just kind of look at like how things are in architecture, and sort of how, and feel sort of the teamwork at play really
Mm-hmm.
in the field as well. It really, I think that's sort of one big thing that I think
Mm-hmm.
anyone can really take away from architecture.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If you would have told yourself something when you were in high school, what would that be right now?
The main thing is really learn how to time manage well, in a way, like
Mm-hmm.
kind of have a good plan to really kind of plan out your week and plan out, your day by day in a way.
Mm-hmm.
In high school, I always did things last minute, and which is a really bad
Mm-hmm.
habit,
Yeah.
especially for U of T
Yeah.
architecture.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of all-nighters in first year because of poor time management. And
Mm-hmm.
second year, when I started learning different ways to time manage, like kind of setting reminders, setting different calendars, using Microsoft To Do. I think that's like the greatest thing in
Mm-hmm.
history that has ever
Yeah.
been made.
Yeah.
Using that, especially for second year, I've actually slept
Mm-hmm.
for most
Yeah.
of my second year, which is really really nice. And yeah, I think those are some. I think that's like one of the biggest key features
Mm-hmm.
to really pick up. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so looking ahead, you talked about all these things that you've learned and picked up along the way. What can we expect from you, in the next, 10, 20 years? What are some things that you really want to accomplish?
Well, I mean, unfortunately, as an architect, you actually to become an architect, you have to do 7 years of school. So in the next 5 years, I'm gonna be still in
Mhm.
school.
Yeah.
But then after that, I do plan on trying to kind of come back to Europe and see other firms and how they work as well, especially in London. I think London. I'm very curious of how that works, and there's a lot of big firms there as well. So I want to see as well how people
Yeah.
there work. And then maybe in the near future, I can also look into kind of starting up a few things as well.
Mhm.
Starting like not architecture based, but more interior based, more furniture based. I'm really into sort of designing little smaller
Mhm.
scale objects. Really, I think doing that is sort of like a passion project that I really want to
Mhm.
try to do, but I don't have the time
Yeah.
to.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Could we see like maybe a firm coming out from you, an interior design
Uh,
firm?
I mean, we'll see. We'll see. I mean,
Yeah.
in the field, it's very hard to start a firm now
Yeah.
since it's very oversaturated with people, and
Mhm.
everyone that you talk to in this field, they probably want to start a firm too. So,
Right. Hmm.
um, like obviously, I think it's like a dream, but we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Maybe in
Hmm.
50 years, not 10 years, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Would you ever, consider doing, a further education beyond like the 7 years that you mentioned?
I mean, I have been looking at doing PhD and becoming a professor because I'm also really
Hmm.
interested in research, which is
Hmm.
why I also took up this project here in the internship. Um, but I guess we'll have to see, because also
Hmm.
I don't know if I'll have the energy to keep on continuing doing
Yeah.
education because it does take a toll
Yeah.
on you for especially with
Hmm.
architecture.
Yeah.
But I guess we'll see on yeah.
So wrapping it up, two more questions for you.
Mhm.
First question is, if you could be remembered, for one thing, your legacy, when it's all said and done, what does Jason Lee want to be remembered for in the future?
I want to say as the guy that sort of did something in architecture, like that changed something in architecture.
Hmm.
But I'm also not too sure in the sense that it sounds like a very difficult dream to achieve or to be
Hmm.
remembered as, but maybe.
A
I
difference
think
maker,
that's,
yeah,
yeah, a difference maker,
yeah.
a difference maker. That's a good way to
Well,
put it. That's a good way to
well,
put it.
yeah. I don't think a lot of difference makers know exactly, what they're going to make a difference in like 40
Yeah,
years from
yeah.
now. But it really starts with, the vision of it,
Right,
which
that
is,
is true.
the important part. Yeah.
Yeah.
And speaking of that, if you could nominate other Pet grads to be on this podcast, who would it be?
I think it would be, do I have to give one or like is it,
It can be
one is okay,
any
right?
amount. It could
Anyone,
be
anyone.
yeah.
I would actually say Laura Yang. I
L'Oreal.
haven't talked to her in a while, but
Mhm.
like the last I talked to her, she seems like a very cool person. She's doing health sci in McMaster. I don't know where she is doing her graduate, but um yeah, like I think she's a very interesting person to talk to. Yeah. I think big a good word of wisdom is maybe time manage, really. Like time
Mhm.
management is a big key in life, and especially in university, and especially if anyone is considering an architecture, it's really really important to organize
Mhm.
your schedule, not just your schedule, but everyone else's schedule.
Mhm.
Your clients,
Yeah.
consultants, all of
Yeah.
that. Very important.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Mhm.
yeah.
Okay. Thank you for the words of advice. Love time management, something I need to work on myself too. Thank you
Yeah.
so much for your time here, and
Thank you. Thank
thank you.
you.
Yeah, of course. It was really great to learn about, architecture and, working abroad too. That's, I don't think we've ever had someone who's been working in Denmark, on this podcast yet. So that was definitely interesting to hear, with the mixing of cultures and all that culture shock and, managing that time and working on projects. It's all super interesting stuff. So thank you so much for your time. And
Thank you
thank
so
you,
much. Yeah.
of
Yeah.
course. Thank you everyone so much for watching. We'll see everyone next week. Peace out.